Welcome live to a cool, cloudy, and unfortunately drizzly day in Denver, Colorado, site of round 15 of the Bridgestone presents the Champ Car World Series powered by Ford. But before you can race the Centrix Financial Grand Prix of Denver, you must qualify. And in this 15th round of the championship, qualifying has never been more critical. What a combination for the Champ Car drivers. The second annual running of the Centrix Financial Grand Prix of Denver takes place on a 1.6-mile street circuit with 9 turns. But that is just the beginning of the story. It is perhaps the most diabolical temporary racing facility in all the world. And with clouds overhead and raindrops falling, this could get very interesting because qualifying is everything. And there is the hottest gun in the series coming into this Wild West adventure, Michel Jourdain, third in the championship, coming off a big win, the second of his career last week in Montreal, Canada. Let's take you back. It was a beautiful day on the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the St. Lawrence River. Canadians were the stars, Tagliani, Tracy, and Carpentier. And it was Tagliani on the pole, while Michel Jourdain started fourth and locked into a race-long wheel-to-wheel battle with Oriol Servia. Pit stops were everything in this one. Tagliani's strategy of pitting early and running hard to open a gap on the field failed, and Jourdain got out of the final pit stop ahead of him, then held off Servia and Carpentier for a big, big victory. Let's hear from him now in the pit lane with Derek Daly.
Indeed, here with Michel Jourdain, who just had a monster weekend at Montreal just a couple of days ago. But Michel, you have your work cut out for you here. 10th fastest yesterday in qualifying. With these changing conditions, is that good or bad for you?
Well, this morning, yesterday, the tires were coming in really quick for everybody. But today, with the cold weather, this morning it was really hard to bring the tires in the 3 laps. So to answer your question, is that, you know, it's going to be hard to improve it because of the temperature. It's hard to do a good lap in 3 laps. So I think that's going to be the big thing. Plus the rain, you know, if it needs to be 100% dry to improve.
Michel, this morning you were 6th fastest, so you're not really at the front of the grid. 35 points behind Tracy. Do you begin to think consistency here rather than running at the front?
Well, no, we need to run in the front, you know, because 35 points is quite a lot in 5 races that we need to make up, you know, and we need him to have some DNFs, and we need to run in the front all the rest of the season.
And of course, it is not really a great thing to say that Jourdain doesn't know what he does on street circuits, because, Bob, remember at Long Beach when this team, Higanti, just dominated for the day without taking away the win.
And their pit stops last weekend were the 5th quickest on aggregate of those that stopped 3 times. Michel definitely earned that win in Montreal. Here's a look at the championship. Bruno Junqueira is doing what he has to do. He picked up the bonus point in yesterday's first round of qualifying. He will start from the front row in Sunday's race no matter what. These 8 drivers are the only ones still mathematically alive in the championship, though Alex Tagliani and Adrian Fernandez are in dire danger of being eliminated this weekend. Now let's talk about the number 2 man in the championship. A full race weekend and more behind Paul Tracy. Bruno Junqueira had a brutal weekend in Montreal last week. On lap 11, got the left side rear off and spun in the hairpin. Later on lap 49, he did it again. Swapping ends. And in his defense, we understand there were some gearbox problems that weekend. His teammate, Sebastian Bourdais, dropped out of the race due to gearbox problems. But last year here in Denver, it was all Bruno all the time. He took pole position and led every lap despite an awkward moment like this one in practice. Pit stops were important back then too. None more important than this one for Junqueira. In the race, he simply would not be passed. He led his teammate, Scott Dixon, to the car owner Chip Ganassi said there were no team owners. Some folks don't believe that. But for Junqueira, who eventually finished second in the championship to Cristiano Ramada, it was a very big weekend, and he really needs one now. Calvin Fish is with him.
Here with Bruno on the provisional pole. Bruno, that locks you into the front row, which is certainly a big deal as you go into today's qualifying session. But 2 scoreless weekends, I'm sure you feel you need to get things back on track here in Denver.
Yeah, for sure you need to get a good race weekend this week, and you need to get a good performance and a lot of points.
You're the defending champion here in Denver. You just stated to me that this track never feels good, even when you're the fastest man on the racetrack. Your engineers have said it's about 29% better. What does that mean?
Means that, the track is 29% more smoother, but still very difficult. It's two completely different asphalts on the first half of the track and second half, and it's pretty much impossible to find a good balance for both ends, and you have to drive what you have.
All right, Bruno, he's going to try and see if he can get an extra bonus point here this afternoon and certainly gain the pole position as well as the front row slot, Bob. He had problems in Montreal, but also championship leader PT had his own issues.
Did he ever, Calvin? That was perhaps the biggest story coming out, the volcanic eruption from series leader Paul Tracy after he ran out of fuel in the run to the checkered flag and lost 2 finishing positions. And the points leader was counting.
Guys, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Why didn't you tell me to save fuel? 2 spots.
And then yesterday, the weekend got off to a bad start for PT. Problems finding traction. In all honesty, it was sometimes very entertaining to watch. Other times, it was bruising. Then this morning, trying to squeeze that last 10th out in turn 1. Another rear wing done for Paul Tracy. Let's go to Derek Daly.
Well, Bob, the language that you hear from Paul Tracy, remember this team are so much behind him because they believe every time he's in this seat here, he absolutely gets the maximum from these players' cars. Now, yesterday, that was only 4th fastest in qualifying. This morning, he could have been the fastest man, but for a small mistake on the last corner. So he's fairly confident if this weather stays dry, he'll be right there.
He is one tough competitor, no doubt about it. Thanks, Derek, and welcome, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Scott Pruitt and Tommy Kendall. Tommy, it's basically a 3-man run for the championship right now, and you seem to have sensed a change in the direction Paul Tracy, Bruno Junqueira, and Michel Jourdain are going in handling this.
Well, heading into Montreal, I thought Bruno had run the best championship so far. He was still a little bit behind, but he was very consistent, was taking the wins, the 1 win when it was available, and just getting the max points the rest of the time. Paul was white hot or stone cold. He was ahead in points, but down the stretch run, it's hard to win championships that way. Now at Montreal, it flipped around. Bruno threw it away twice, whereas Paul, after Bruno was out, changed plans midstream and was able to just kind of settle back and go for the championship. As far as that eruption, losing 2 spots, everybody says, well, hey, he gained on Bruno. When you have 5 races to go, 4 points is 4 points. And so he probably could have taken some advice from Dale Carnegie on how to deliver that news a little bit more tactfully, but I understand the emotion.
Hey, this is serious business. Now, Scott, you're racing in the Trans Am this weekend, going for a championship of your own. What's the racetrack like?
This is a tough track. You don't get much grip out there, as we heard from some and saw from some of the drivers. Very slippery, hard to find that good grip, hard to get a good balance out of the car. It's rough in some areas, smooth in other areas. You're sliding around a lot, but turn 1 is notorious. We've had a lot of problem with taking a look. Look here. This is the braking area. A lot of guys getting in a little bit too deep, and then here you go. See some of those wild black marks, guys getting a little carried away. You'll see here, just as you make it around a turn, more black marks. And then boom, into the tire wall. A lot of guys getting in too deep. Car gets a little push, gets away from them, and slap. Those tires reach out and grab a hold of you and just bring the front around, slam it right into the fence.
And then it's the race car that gets carried away on the end of a hook. And to make things even more interesting, we have a sprinkling of raindrops as we get ready for qualifying. Of course, it's all about the race. You'll catch it here on Speed Channel tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The Champ Car Grand Prix of Denver, only on Speed. Things are getting intense here in Denver, politically as well as athletically. Folks in California, vote early and often. We'll be back. Speed Channel coverage of qualifying for the Champ Car Grand Prix of Denver is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, advanced technology that gives you a grip on the future. And by Ford. If you haven't looked at Ford lately, look again. Welcome back. Crowd filing into the grandstands. As you can see, jackets and flags snapping in a cool breeze. Very different kind of weather from what we've seen elsewhere this season. As we ready for single car road course qualifying, let's take a look at the activities on Friday. Roberto Moreno, first to touch the concrete barriers, but he was not the only man to struggle, looking for grip.
Turn one.
Patrick Carpentier got things started for the Players Forsyth team. A couple of wild-looking spins without hitting anything. And then one in which he did hit something.
Turn one again.
How about Paul Tracy with some wild lessons in car control before he too found the tire wall, down in one. Mario Dominguez caught the end of the tire wall, and the results were a bit more dramatic.
Turn one. Wow, it's taking its toll.
Here's a look at the first round qualifying results. Once again, these were single car qualifying. Unusual on a road course, but we did it earlier this year in Brands Hatch, England. Bruno Junqueira picking up a guaranteed front row spot on a championship bonus point, and Adrian Fernandez having a great qualifying session, along with Darren Manning. Paul Tracy managed to wrestle fourth place out of this difficult racetrack. And look at Mario Haberfeld, the Brazilian, well up there in the Reynard chassis. The Reynards appear to work well around this circuit, which has such a horrible reputation for being bumpy. In fact, Haberfeld will go out, was the fastest man in yesterday's practice. Let's go to Derek Daly.
Well, Darren Manning, the longer this season goes on, the closer you get to the front. But P3 yesterday, is the rain good or bad if it comes this afternoon?
Well, if it comes early and everybody has the same, that's good for me, you know, because at least we get a chance to stay P3, and also running towards the end of the qualifying session, it gives us a chance to see what everybody else has done and try for that P1 position. So maybe all right, but we're okay if it stays dry. A few problems this morning in warm-up, which meant we had to stop pretty early. So hopefully we fix those, and it's going to be okay for qualifying.
Possibly okay for qualifying and the race, because this weekend officially they have sportsbook.com as their sponsorship. Maybe Darren is a good bet this weekend.
He'd certainly like to make his new sponsor proud. The Toyota Atlantic Championship is also running here at Denver and could crown a champion this weekend. Check it out tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on Speed Channel. And the Trans Am Series for the BF Goodrich Tires Cup has also announced the new sponsor this weekend, Motor Rock. Sure to watch the Motor Rock Mile High 100, starring our own Scott Pruitt, Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed. We'll be back.
Welcome back to Denver as second round qualifying begins. A man who's very comfortable here at Denver. He sat on the front row last year, second on the provisional grid, Adrian Fernandez. You like this racetrack for some reason. It seems to suit the car.
Yeah, it's been good. We started with the last year's setup, and then we changed some things, and the car has been consistent, and that's been important. When you start good from the first session, it makes everything easy, or easier, I would say. So now we just have to see what's happening with the rain, because it's, you know, I mean, whoever gets fastest lap here, it will start on the front row. So it's going to be tricky.
Okay, Adrian, good luck this afternoon. Bob?
Adrian Fernandez, very good on the street circuits, finished fourth in this race last year. On course, the only car on course under our single car qualifying format, Jeff Boss from Dale Coyne Racing.
Now these guys, you can see, this is the first lap. Look how slippery. We talked about it, you heard it up the top of the show. It's going to take probably another half lap to a lap to get these Bridgestones up to temperature, running about 20 degrees cooler ambient temperature today. So there's going to be a lot more challenging on the driver to step it up and get it done.
Take a look at the qualifying rules. The reverse order of the first round qualifying time. So Boss was the slowest yesterday. He's first on track today. Driver gets one untimed out lap, and then a maximum of 3 timed laps. And Boss is on the clock right now. The driver's best single lap time will be his qualifying time. And if you bring out the red, which Mario Dominguez did in yesterday's first round, you lose your fast lap. The Mexican fell from 11th on the provisional grid to 16th.
Now, what's significant to watch here, unless it dumps rain after this, no one expects Jeff Boss to be the quickest, but what's important, look on that left front tire, you can still see after a warm-up and 2 timed laps, he's still showing the sticker on his front tires. That's what Jourdain alluded to. Really hard to get the tire temp. This is his last time lap. So I think a lot of the other guys are going to be watching to see what they can learn from this run in terms of how quickly things are coming up. I think it's safe to say you're racing against everybody else. You're not racing against yesterday's time, because unless something dramatic happens, guys are not going to be able to get enough heat in the tires to put in a representative lap. What it's going to come down to is who can get going quicker, the quickest.
Now, what's interesting this morning, Mario Haberfield was the quickest, Haberfeld, sorry about that. Haberfeld was actually a half a second quicker than Bruno's quickest time yesterday. He actually ran a 1:09. So the track is showing the speed, but as Tommy said, I don't know if they're going to be able to show the speed here in qualifying.
Now keep in mind, last year these cars were equipped with electronic traction control. This year they do not have that, and yet, as you point out, Scott, they're going quicker. A 1:07 topped by a 1:06.5 for Jeff Boss. That puts him on the outside of row 1 provisionally as the fast man in the session. There is Mario Haberfeld. He'll be up much later.
Welcome back, everybody, to the streets of Denver, Colorado. Our guest is Mario Haberfeld, who was the fastest man this morning in practice. He was also the fastest man yesterday in practice. Mario, the conditions are very changey. I know you're looking at the sky here. Does it matter to you if it rains here? 5th fastest yesterday in qualifying officially?
Yeah, I mean, if it rains, then we're guaranteed 5th place, which would be our best qualifying this season. On the other hand, we've been quickest this morning, so we have a chance of improving on our position. But we've been struggling a little bit in qualifying, because here is a single car qualifying to get the front tires up to temperature, only in 3 laps. So it's hard to say. If it rains, it might be better, it might be not. Whatever happens, we'll try to make the best out of it.
Thank you, Mario. Good luck. One of the things he did say before we went on camera is there's a major problem with not having enough laps to get these tires up to working temperature. Calvin?
Down here with the championship leader, Paul Tracy. Paul, 4th on the grid provisionally, 2nd fast this morning, but you and Patrick have both been struggling with the balance of the car, backed it in a few times. Any better handle on it for qualifying?
I think so. I mean, we're definitely trying hard out there and trying to go as quick as we can go, and minimal downforce here is very slippery. So, you know, if you get offline just by a couple of inches, it's hard to hang on to the car. So really we've been struggling with the rear end of the car, just not having any grip.
Certainly with the sprinkles we're getting right now, the racetrack doesn't have the speed in it to be fastest overall, but for you, a bonus point on the line and a front row starting grid, I'm sure you'll be going for it nonetheless.
Well, I think we have to. I think we have to try to get on the front row and get a point. So that's what we're going to try and do.
The end of Montreal, I caught you after the run there, and certainly very frustrated. In retrospect, do you look at things differently about what happened to you running out of fuel, or is the championship that critical? You realize, but those few points can cost you.
I think the championship is critical. For sure, I was upset about what happened, but you know, anybody that says 4 points isn't important. I mean, look at Dario Franchitti. He tied for the championship. All he needed was 1 point to win it, and you know, so that's how critical it can be.
All right, points are important. He'd like to get that bonus point this afternoon, Bob.
That he would. Thank you, Calvin. Now, a moment ago, Walter Salas on track had posted a 66.2, but then spun, bringing out the red flag we are currently under. Here's what happened.
Going down into turn 1, locks up the inside. It's like we've seen so many times. Turn 1 is just treacherous. Try to get it going again and stalled it.
Well, you've heard a lot about turn 1, and as you can see, raindrops on the lens. Things are getting more and more complicated here. Let's take a look at this racetrack while we have a moment. Scotty, you've driven it. Take us around.
Going into turn 1, we've seen a lot in turn 1 down there. Turn 2, actually it's a turn 2-3 combination, hard on the throttle. You get up to into turn 3. Here, you want to carry a lot of speed. You're almost flat through turn 4. Down the straight, here's really wild. The track comes to about right there and widens out to about 15 cars wide. Turn 5, very slippery. You get up too high offline, you slide clear off the racetrack. This is pretty much traditional for a street course. Straight in, very deep. Get in, get off hard. And here, turn 8, you want to come out of there hard. Get a good run up into turn 9, then 9, again, very treacherous turn. You actually carry a hump over as you go over the top and actually exit. You have to be right on top of the car. That's what's causing all these problems. So for turn 9, turn 1, those are the most difficult turns on this track because of the huge crown in the road.
And if you want some driving tips around this track, you might talk to a member of the Chicago Avalanche, because it is an all skate, especially when it rains. Here's a look at our weather conditions. 81 degrees yesterday, just 68 today under completely cloud-covered skies. Did I say the Chicago Avalanche? Well, okay, I'll have to turn in my NHL fan card. Colorado Avalanche, of course. There's a new face in the Champ Cars. Formula One veteran Mika Salo taking over for Max Pappas in the PK Racing Lola Ford.
And Mika's getting thrown into the deep end here. Not spending much time in these cars. Going out in very difficult conditions. As we sit here in the booth, you can actually see rain coming down. He's on slicks, trying to get going, not familiar with these cars. This is going to be a huge challenge for him.
As an F1 veteran, when was the last time he drove on cold tires, you think?
Oh, boy.
I can't
Tire
remember.
warmers and all that?
That's right.
Other than maybe on a restart with a safety car, but to go out and try to go fast on cold tires is definitely probably back from his F3 days would be the last time. Now, you talked about the crown in the last corner and the first corner. There's the elevation change, believe it or not, is causing a lot of the nuance that guys struggle with here. Turn 1, you've got the crown of the road, so when you turn in, you're turning up over the hill, but then also right about halfway into the braking zone for turn 1, the road goes away forward. So it's crowned right to left, but it also is falling away. So if you get in too hot, especially with the low grip, with it being downhill, it'd be like running down a wet driveway that is sloping away from you. Try to throw the binders on, and you're going to end up on your rear. Same thing happens here. You lose the front end, and you turn in, and then you lose the back end.
Salo's an interesting story in how careers develop. Back in the early 90s in British Formula 3, he and fellow Finn Mika Hakkinen simply divided the spoils between them. No one else was close. Both went into Formula 1. We know what happened to Mika Hakkinen. 2 world championships with McLaren, while Salo bounced around. Lotus, Tyrrell, Arrows, BAR, Ferrari, Sauber, Toyota. Never picked up a victory in 110 career starts.
Going in the back straight here. I don't know if we'll get a shot of it about right here. The track, as you see, the track widens out to about 15 lengths wide. And there's a number of different ways you can get down into that turn. But when you're out there driving it itself, it just seems so strange because you're going between the two walls. All of a sudden, the left-hand side just goes far to the right.
Yeah, most street courses, it's pretty much like connect the dots. You know where the turn-in point is, the braking point, you choose it, but you're braking on about the same line, turning in, the clipping point, exit point, and so forth. Whereas there, all of a sudden, you've got an infinite number of different lines, different philosophies, and that's something that plays into in the race. You can actually work on a guy. The problem that dampens that a little bit is the fact that offline, it's really dirty. If the grip was consistent everywhere around, you could actually get guys going high, trying to slice back underneath.
I heard an interesting line out of you, Scott. You said it's almost like baseball. You have to throw the car and catch it.
Mika Salo ran a 105.5, which is pretty solid considering the conditions out there. He ran a 103.8 yesterday. That's just a different conditions today. You can see a little water on the lens there. The car's a little more tricky to drive, not as much grip. They're complaining about grip, but now with these wet conditions and slightly damp conditions, and with the fact it's taking a little bit longer for these tire temps to get up and get working, it's quite a challenge.
See the combined qualifying times to this point across the top of your screen. 65.559, the best effort thus far from Mika Salo. He improves to a 64.645, provisionally P2. We'll be back to Denver.
Welcome back to Denver as Mario Dominguez finishes up his run. Paul Gentilozzi, your driver's on track next, and you came so close to that first victory last year, but here at Denver, really other than Laguna, it's the only track you guys have really struggled at. You changed the setup for qualifying?
Yeah, we've changed everything every session, Cal. You know, the interesting thing about the dynamic of kart is when you're fast, you get to be at the end of pit lane. Well, unfortunately, next week, we're probably going to be at the other end. And we've been back and forth all year. You try to minimize that. I don't know what's wrong this weekend. We don't have a notebook to come here for Denver. We don't know what to do on these kind of tracks, maybe by next year.
Okay, certainly a testimony to this team that they haven't struggled like they are here over the course of the whole season. But right now, let's go down to Double D with another man who's had his qualifying run.
With Jeff Boss, who was the first man out on the track in Dale Coyne's car. And Jeff, I know I asked you earlier what it was like. You said horrible. Why?
Well, it was really frustrating. You know, it's always tough being the first one out. We'd had a little rain previous, but the tough part for us, we had a motor cutting out. If we had normal qualifying, you could have come in, sort of fixed the glitch and gone back out again. I'm a big fan of the single car qualifying, but it doesn't give you that opportunity if you do have a problem to come in. And, you know, in hindsight, we probably should have just rolled in and given everybody else a little more time, but we had made some changes before qualifying that we were trying to check as well. And I'm not so sure we got a really good handle on them given the circumstance. We just weren't getting full boost down the straightaway, so it was frustrating.
Thanks, Jeff. Good luck tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. We saw Mario Dominguez pit after putting up a number of 62.993, so he moves to second on the provisional grid alongside Bruno Junqueira, who 61.438 was setting yesterday's first round. Now on track, Alex Tagliani, Paul Gentilosi's man in the Johnson Controls car from Rocket Sports. He had pole at Milwaukee when rain washed out qualifying, and he had the fastest practice time. Then he took one on merit a week ago in Montreal and drove his home fans crazy.
And one thing we need to mention about Dominguez is the fact that he almost ran a second faster than yesterday, which I think is big right now. I mean, that could be setting a tone that things might end up different here than we might be thinking. Those tires might be getting up and getting temp a little quicker than we anticipated.
Don't forget, though, that his run yesterday, he crashed on his third-time lap. So that you're not comparing apples and apples, at least with him. Tagliani give us a better read on that.
The rain appears to have let up, and there's a big patch of blue sky off toward the Rocky Mountain frontal range west of Denver. Let's hope it stays dry. Right now, let's go to Derek Daly with Mika Salo.
Mika, we threw you in at the deep end here, and then we threw some rain at you. How was that little run?
Yeah, I gave it everything I had, but we had a bad timing. We were at the beginning, and it was raining a bit more heavy, and it's slowing down now, so very, very unlucky also. And a little bit on me also. I took it so easy yesterday, not to damage anything and just to learn things, and I thought today is the day, and no rain, so I'm a bit disappointed.
It's a big, big change, Mika, to throw you in here from F1. I know physically, have a look at his hand here. Look, he's actually got blisters on his hand because remember, he hasn't used a clutch or a gear change for so many years. So, I mean, this is a huge learning curve.
It is, yeah, just to find the braking points and everything, and just learning to use the gear shift and throttle blips and all this, and I haven't used that for 15 years, so it's a big difference. And yeah, it's quite a lot different thing, and also the car is about 1 meter wider than Formula 1 cars, so yesterday I was just getting used to it. I was clipping the inside walls all the time, so I have to keep away from them a little bit. So.
Thank you, Mika. Good to see you here. Thank you.
A meter wider than a Formula 1 Grand Prix car.
Now, as Tommy was mentioned earlier, Tagliani actually had another terrific run. He was actually quicker than, just slightly faster than he was this morning by about 3/10, and he was actually a little over a second quicker than yesterday. So I don't know, things are actually looking pretty good here.
Tagliani moves to P2 while Mario Dominguez, who sat in that spot before Alex, drops to 13th on the grid. Remember, the fastest man in this session goes automatically to the outside of the front row, if, in fact, he does not bump the pole sitter, Bruno Junqueira, to the outside of the front row. And when bumped from that position, if you are, you drop down to wherever your time puts you on merit. In Dominguez's case, that was 13th. Now on track, his teammate, Roberto Moreno. Best qualified performance this year, third in Vancouver.
Now you see some interesting things happening. At times, it looks like, you've seen in the last couple runs, looks like a little smoke or something coming out from around the rear section of the car. That's actually a little water sitting in the track that they're sucking up out of the groove. So you can see that there's actually been some rain and some water sitting down in some of these grooves around the track.
Heavy overnight showers. which I'm sure didn't do much for the grip conditions on this racetrack. The tire engineers say this track appears to rubber in much slower than any of the other street circuits we go to. Whether that's a function of altitude or the product used to pave what is essentially a large parking lot around the Pepsi Center, home of the Colorado Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets, of course. Moreno has a temporary circuit pole, that coming in Surfers Paradise, Australia in 2001. His best effort here, however, 63.296. Not an improvement on yesterday. He's currently 16th. Stay with us.
Welcome back, everybody. This is what they call the bullpen. We got to stay out of the way because cars go by, but we are with our winner from Australia last year. That sounds good still, doesn't it? But how was today?
Well, it's raining, it's sprinkling. There's really nothing I could do. At the moment, the track was pretty damp, so I just can't seem to get any good breaks this year, really. The car is good.
Okay, so if the car is good, you can show us tomorrow. Thank you, Mario.
Well, right now, Alex Tagliani just doing a report. One of the media here will try and break in if we can. Tag, big improvement even over this morning's practice. I guess you threw something at the setup that worked.
Well, at the point where we threw a lot of things on the car, and obviously in the qualifying session it was better. Unfortunately, it was sprinkling, so we didn't see the real potential of the car, but it's the same for everyone. I think we still have a little bit more to get, but we know now which direction we have to go at least.
Really, when a car rolls off the truck bad, can people turn it around within the 2 days before the race day? Are you going to be able to do that?
Well, the problem with us is that this is the tire that we ran in St. Petersburg, and we were learning the car at that time, and everything that we did in the season we thought was going to be good here, but I guess we had to change the car quite a bit, shock, geometry, everything to match the car to the tires that were running here. So if you start bad, you're in our situation, and it's really hard to turn the car around.
Okay, as Paul Gentilizzi, his team owner, said, they don't have a notebook to work from, but again, big improvement for Tag in that run, guys.
Thanks, Calvin. You saw Rodolfo Levine climbing out of the Corona car from Walker Racing. He is currently 15th with a 63.9. That is quite a bit off what he ran yesterday, a 63.1. So problems for Levine. Now on track, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Boca Raton, Florida. American Spirit Team Johansson.
What I thought was impressive this weekend is how fast, a lot of people thought the Reynards were not going to be very good coming in this weekend. And we saw two Reynards in the top 3 this morning in warm-up. So they don't seem to have the challenge of being competitive like they have other places. And hopefully a little bit of a run here, Ryan can show some of the potential of the Reynard.
It's looking more and more to me like that Penske front wing. Really, it's maybe as much a function of the aero at the front of the car as it is the Reynard itself, because these cars are transformed by that front wing. Haberfeld, it really plays into his driving style. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Jimmy were very quick at Mid-Ohio. Ryan Hunter-Reay dinged his only Penske front wing at Montreal, non-factor the rest of the weekend. So to me, it's looking more and more like that it allows you, they have to do some things with the car to drive around that understeer, work around the understeer with setup. When they put that front wing on, all of a sudden, they're tuning the car kind of in a normal way.
You got to remember, everything happens with the front wing, not just front downforce, but how it distributes the air around the car, under the car. You want to get enough good air under the car to have a lot of downforce from the underwing. That's where most of the downforce comes from these cars, as well as over the top. So I think not only talking about front grip, we're talking about total downforce out of these cars that are affected by the front wing.
Ryan Hunter-Reay qualified second at Mid-Ohio, qualified third on this racetrack a year ago in a Toyota Atlantic car, and put up a lap at 61.7 in this morning's practice. Checkered flag on him. Nope, 62.4. An improvement on yesterday, but a good lap.
Good lap.
Under the conditions. He's provisionally in 12th spot. Calvin Fish.
Well, Sebastian Bourdais and the Lilly team also have McDonald's sponsorship. Last time they had on the car at Cleveland, Sebastian won that race. Sebastian, is that a good luck omen for you, having the M on the side again?
I don't know, this weekend is pretty tough. Conditions are hard. As you can see, it's raining a bit, so we got a damper failure yesterday, so we couldn't put the lap together. Hopefully today we will have a chance, but it depends a lot on the weather.
Of all of the tracks that you've run this year, they're all new to you, Sebastian. Is this the most difficult one to get a handle on with the setup of the race car?
Yeah, we definitely struggle to get the balance together, and you know, this altitude is very difficult for us because everybody's losing a lot of downforce, around 30%, so it makes life harder.
Okay, Sebastian Bourdais and his engineer Craig Hampson are going to go work to this afternoon. Yesterday, the car was extremely loose during his run.
Jimmy Vasser, Ryan Hunter-Reay's teammate, down in what last year was called the mile-wide turn. Now it's the Centrix Financial Corner.
No, it's the mile-wide turn. Locking inside front a little bit there.
Oof. This weekend, only a 63.1 this morning, 62.9 in yesterday's first round.
His second lap time, which is a 3.7, was only a 10th off Tagliani's second lap time of a 3.6.
Start catching the timing intervals. 0.4 of a second behind the pole sitter at turn 3.
Wow, 1.2. Lost a lot of time through there. You see these light patches as they're going over. That's actually where they've come in and ground since last year, trying to make this track a bit smoother. It was very rough last year. A lot of these guys are saying it's significantly better. What was it, Bruno? 29% better?
29% better.
Now let's emphasize, these are Bruno's interval splits from yesterday in the drive when he did a 61.4. Jimmy's not going to be able to get close to that. Rain outside our announce position. Jimmy Vasser will be disappointed with a 63.2, about 0.3 off of what he did yesterday, provisionally 13th, to the pit lane.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay is here. Of course, you remember one of the big stars of Mid-Ohio just a couple of weeks ago. Ryan, very much a test of discipline out there this afternoon.
Well, it is. I mean, this track's real picky with mechanical grip. We just haven't been able to find it this weekend, neither the American Spirit cars. So we're working on it. Hopefully we'll find something for tomorrow. That's all we can hope for.
Thank you, Ryan.
Here is Michel Jourdain, winner in Montreal a week ago.
Good shot from on board there, helmet cam. Turn 3, turn 4, onto the back straight. Even there you can see it's still pretty rough. Even though they've done a lot of work improving it, making it smoother, still a pretty rough track.
Imagine wrestling a car like this for 106 laps in tomorrow's race.
In the thin air, so you know, fitness is always an issue, but here there's the 30%.
A little overcorrect there. Whoa, a little more overcorrect.
30% less dense air that affects brake cooling, engine cooling, downforce, actually makes the cars a little bit more slippery, not as much drag, but that's also 30% less oxygen in the air than in a lung full of air.
Ran a good lap. His second time lap was within 0.2 of his fastest yesterday. Whoa, whoa, whoa!
He scared those tires. We apologize, we're having some problems with our onboard technology due to the low cloud. We can't get the helicopter receiver up high enough for a real solid image, but we thought you'd enjoy this.
He's doing a great job right now. You see how difficult that car is to hold on to. These tires quite aren't up to temp and up to pressure. And you see him just sawing at the wheel, yanking it, grabbing it, whatever he can do to get lap time out of this thing.
Up to turn 6, the Coors Light corner.
Tell you what, if you really had thought it through and known how tough it was going to be, you could almost make gear changes. Look at this. Oh. I don't know. That's a little bit, that's a lot of time going sideways. Yep.
62.1. 0.2 improvement on yesterday. It hoists Michel Jourdain to P2 with faster cars to come. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Denver. Oriol Servia on his qualifying run, but this man, Emerson Fittipaldi, keen to get back to his pit box. Your man, Tiago Monteiro, 8th fastest yesterday, 3rd this morning. What about qualifying today?
Well, you know, he went much faster this morning. I hope he can repeat the time from this morning. Now track conditions getting better, stopped drizzling, and I hope he has a good run. I'm looking for it.
Fingers crossed. Good luck, Em.
Now this is going to be a good lap.
Back.
61.4. Serbia by 4,000th of a second. Excuse me, 400ths of a second. Comes up short of Bruno Junqueira's pole in the draw yesterday. A great run for the Spaniard in the Visteon car. Derek.
Jimmy Vasser, conditions becoming a lot better now. Serbia just went fairly quickly. Was it a good run for you, Jim? You had that frustrated look on your face.
It was a terrible run. I mean, we were down next to dead last in the last session, and you know, I'm driving the wheels off that thing, sliding around. I don't think we had the in-car camera, you can probably tell, but you just no grip to the track at all. I mean, I don't know what our problem is on the 12 car. My teammate's car seems to be working a bit better, but we are just absolutely nowhere. So, I think the track is fine. We just slide this like I'm on ice.
Thanks, Jimmy. As Calvin mentioned earlier on, usually when you get lost at the start of a weekend, seldom do you ever catch up.
Poor Jimmy, speechless.
It's like snowmobiling with Bobby Unser. I mean,
getting lost, you mean?
Yeah.
As Jimmy was saying, when your car is bad, it makes your job is so much tougher driving the car. When the car's good, it's fun. You get it on and get the job done. But when it's junk like he's talking about, it makes for a long day.
On board with Thiago Montero. His best start of the season was 9th at Milwaukee.
I have to say, circuits like this, I mean, the challenge is the same. You're trying to outdo everyone. But in terms of enjoyment, I mean, this is not what a champ car was built for. You know, to tiptoe and skater along the ice, no tire temp, no downforce. So, I mean, the job is the same. You got to figure out a way to beat everybody else. But pure enjoyment is not probably real high for these guys right now.
Now, he was 3rd quickest this morning, Thiago. Very quick all weekend long. Currently 10th. First lap of 1:03.1, which is just about a second off of his fastest time from yesterday. Certainly not the pace we saw this from Serbia just a few minutes ago. Let's see him come up with something big in his last.
Thiago Montero, a 61.6, a very good lap. 0.6 improvement over yesterday, and the second quickest we've seen thus far. Let's go down to the pit lane and Derek Daly.
With the man who finished 2nd last weekend in Montreal, Oriol, that was a pretty spectacular run out there.
I tried my best, I tell you. Yesterday I wasn't, really happy about the car, and neither of myself. Sometimes you feel you've done a good lap, sometimes you don't. With the conditions here, you're guessing, with cold tires. And today I'm pretty happy with the car and myself. I don't know if it's going to be quick enough to be in the front row, but it's definitely a nice step forward, and it was going to bring the Visteon car a lot more where we want it.
Let me show you this here, boys. Although he finished 2nd in Montreal, this wrist is wrapped because of the incident he had in qualifying with Bruno Junqueira last weekend, which didn't look that hard a hit, but you can see the injury to the wrist, which he now has heavily wrapped.
He's been carrying an ice pack on that wrist at every opportunity out of the race car. Sebastian Bourdais in the McLola from Newman Haas.
Now, this is his going to his 2nd time lap, and he's already within a couple tenths of pole. So he's still got this lap plus one more. He's doing a terrific job, and looks like he could be on pace. Not on this lap, but most certainly the next lap, to take the pole away from his teammates.
61.5 that lap.
So only a 0.12 off. Now, the question is, did they start tire pressures higher to try to help them out? So you would expect him to improve. Everybody else has improved on their 3rd time lap.
10th off through turn 3. See what he come up with going onto the back straight. 10th off. It's going to be close. It's going to be real close.
Bright sunshine there on the long half mile or so back straightaway.
Dead even. Look at that.
Oh. We haven't seen green numbers yet, meaning you're ahead of the pole sitter's pace, but he might have one going right now. Those dark clouds on this horizon beyond the Pepsi Center.
Locked up the inside front pretty severely. But a lot of the guys are making up quite a bit of time through this complex.
Never got all the way to the apex of the second right.
61.547, almost an identical lap. Bourdais unable to overhaul Oriol Servia for fast time of the day. He slots into the provisional third spot. Stay with us for more from Denver.
Welcome back to the streets of downtown Denver as you see Patrick Carpentier running his qualifying session. But one of the stories this weekend has been Thiago Monteiro. Third faster this morning in practice and a pretty good run there in qualifying. The smile's on your face.
Yes, it is. You know, it feels nice, you know, when you're competitive right from the beginning. The car has been really good since we arrived, basically, and we've been running really strong every practice, all the time, in between top 6, I would say. So yesterday, P8 in qualifying. Right now, I did I think quite a good time, but it's not over yet, but at least I'm happy with myself because, I pushed hard and it was okay. The tire gave me the car gave me the opportunity to push hard. So once again, thank you, everybody. The whole team did an amazing job.
Can I just look at your wrist here? Look at this here, boys, also. Both his hands are heavily wrapped. This is not because of an injury. This is to try and protect the palms of his hands from blisters.
All right, thank you, Derek. Patrick Carpentier just finished his laps at a 61.8, and it was pretty impressive considering his first lap began with a big lurid slide through turn 1. Let's take you back and show you how Carpentier began his effort.
In town, turn 1. You see, goes to turn in. Car jumps away. Now he's got his head on. He's going, okay, can't stall it because I lose my fastest lap if I do. But this messes with your head a little bit. You've already got your first lap. You've spun. Now you got to get it all together and get it done for one more lap.
Provisionally 6th, Calvin Fish.
Here with Sebastian Bourdais, currently P3. And Sebastian, halfway through that final lap, you were equal with Servia. Did the tire pressures get too high? Slight mistake in the last couple of corners?
We did a change in the car and it was a bit... I mean, we had to do it because we were struggling this morning, but couldn't put the balance brake right and just locked the wheel, the inside wheel at turn 6 and went straight and lost a lot of time.
Balance better for tomorrow, do you think? Do you think you'll have a good car underneath you?
It's the problem, it's track position, so, it doesn't really matter if you have a good car or not now. It's a matter of putting the car in a good spot for the starting position.
Sometimes the race for the win actually happens today on Saturday afternoon, Bob.
White flag for Mario Haberfeld, who has been quick all weekend. From time to time you hear this odd chirping of the tires, especially over the painted lines on the parking lot.
The Haberfeld was quickest this morning, and this guy's going to have a great shot. Here he is, just virtually on par with the pole time.
The car pushed a lot through that the second half of that combination. His second lap, you see, he lost about 2.5 tenths. His second lap was the quickest thus far. And a 2 flat. That just shows you how narrow the line is. Made some of that time back.
You hear those tires just, oh no. You say, I mean, you get
up the big push.
That turn especially, you get just a little offline and that car will slide clear off the track.
Alan laughed at Nigel Mansell many years ago in the Dallas Formula One Grand Prix when he said the car was sliding on the painted lines on the road. I think old Nigel may have been vindicated. Haberfeld finishes his best 62.050. He was hoping to improve on his best start of the year, which was 4th in Lausitz, Germany. Man, kissing that concrete.
You can see, gets down, gets up off the line, right there. You can see all the dirt and garbage.
He got in a little too hot, and I think he hit the curb early on, and he was still trying to turn. When he wanted to be going left, he was heading straight.
Derek Daly.
with Patrick Carpentier. Patrick, you don't often spin on a street circuit between concrete walls and not hit anything. Was that driving brilliance, or did you close your eyes?
Yeah, I just kept the throttle, not to hit the wall, but it's more luck than anything else, because spun a few times there this week and hit the wall every time. So it's sad because we only have 3 laps to do it, so it took a bit away from our time.
You know what's even more sad? You've only got 3 rear wings. You've already broken 2. This is your last one.
Yeah, that's it. It's the last one. We've broken 4 between me and Paul, so that's a lot of rear wings for this weekend, and it's enough.
Thank you, Patrick. Good luck tomorrow.
His teammate is now on track. Championship leader Paul Tracy with 5 poles in the bag this year. The best season he's had in Champ Cars. In fact, he was the pole sitter the last time we ran single car format on a road course in Brands Hatch, England. Also poled at Portland, Toronto, Vancouver, and Mid-Ohio.
I think the players' cars have their car set up a bit loose. And I'm not sure if that's something they're fighting and how they set this car up. Going right on par with pole time from yesterday, so Paul's getting the job done right now.
We saw with that knife edge, we saw with Haberfeld, we saw with Bourdais. If you just step over by being a hair aggressive, wow, look how close this is. Now this is relative to Bruno. This will be enough, it looks like, to, well, actually, Serbia is right there with Bruno. Wow.
Faster.
Just 400ths difference between Bruno Junqueira, the provisional pole sitter, who has yet to go out. He'll be the last man out, and Serbia.
Now, I'm impressed with Paul going through that last turn there.
That's exactly what...
That's one way to heat up those tires.
A lot of Ford Cosworth turbo power there, but a whole lot of anger in that right foot, too. Up goes the visor.
Okay, I stick my foot in my mouth. I was impressed with how he got through the turn at the end of the straight, but unfortunately just a little too hot.
And he was 1400ths up on pole sitter Bruno Junqueira at the time.
Wow. And I'll tell you what, as it stands now, that time puts him 9th. His time from yesterday.
This is this place is knife edge. It's so easy to get in just a little too deep, and when you do, that's what happens. It was so tidy and so clean the whole rest of that lap, and unfortunately couldn't pay it off.
Well, we saw that slide that Mario Haberfeld had during his run. You see the scuff there on the Bridgestone tire. Mario, how was the balance during those 3 laps?
Yeah, the balance of the car is okay. It's just the tire for us doesn't come in 3 laps, so we have a big problem there for qualifying. I mean, we have more understeer because the fronts don't come in, and then obviously you have more steering angles, so on the exit you have more wheel spin also. Our car is pretty good otherwise. I mean, both days we were quicker in testing, so it's not a big problem for the race. It's just disappointing we can show what the car is capable on those 3 laps.
Well, certainly disappointing to be where he is on the grid after 2 great practice sessions. Fastest yesterday morning, fastest this morning. Let's have a chat with PT with Derek.
With Paul Tracy here. Paul, that looked a vintage lap for a while. Were you aware before the incident that you were actually quicker than Bruno?
Well, I knew I had a good time going, and you know, you got 1 lap to qualify, and you got to push to the limit. I lost it, so frustrated.
When you lose it like that, Paul, does your mind go to making sure you don't hit the wall, or do you lose control, or what do you do?
Yeah, you know, you just try to not hit the wall, but you know, it's just one of those things. We're pushing to the limit. You have 1 lap to do it, and you know, you're on cold tires, and you know, that was it. You know, I was trying to get the most out of every corner, and you know, I lost it. That was it.
Thank you, Paul. The man who's chasing his first ever championship. 6 wins in a monster season so far this year. But boy, you can tell the frustration in his voice.
Well, he is currently 9th, and that's where he will start, because there is only 1 man after Darren Manning, who heads for the pit lane, to go, and that is Adrian Fernandez, and then Bruno Junqueira.
Think about that swing. 1 slight mistake, going maybe 5 feet too deep on your braking. He starts 9th instead of perhaps 1st.
Right. Some consolation for Paul Tracy. He starts 9th next to the man who was 3rd in the championship, Michel Jourdain, the winner in Montreal last week. Darren Manning slots into the 7th spot with a 62.005, about 2 2/10 off of what he did yesterday in the opening qualifying. Here's Adrian Fernandez.
Right in the runoff into one. Got in a little too deep, locked the fronts.
Oh,
and
look at
it's
the
raining.
rain. That's your explanation. Man, that was, hello, I must be going.
That's going to end it for the day.
Simple Green Kart safety team runs out there under Lon Bromley, the director of safety. Whoa.
With that rain coming down like it was, just
could not get her woed up.
Couldn't get it done. Yeah, it's coming down pretty hard now.
That's a shame. We were so close to getting this in. Calvin Fish.
Down here with Darren Manning. Darren, third fastest yesterday, currently 7th. I think you'll stay there with the rain now starting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good effort, really. We did a 61.9 there. We had a lot of problems this morning. We had to cut our practice session short. We thought we had a problem with the car, but it felt pretty normal there. We put everything back to how we had yesterday. So, you know, just didn't know what to expect from the car. So, pretty good effort otherwise.
Being a rookie on the circuit, Denver certainly presents some challenges for the race tomorrow. What do you think going into the race?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be up in P7 inside for the first corner. It's always going to be a help. You know, that's big wide into turn 5 there, so it's going to be interesting. But got a few guys to follow.
All right, still a big smile on his face, Bob.
Always with Darren Manning, the smile. And there is Bruno Junqueira. Frankly, I'm surprised he's still sitting in the race car.
I'd be getting out. The rain's coming down hard enough. He can't go challenge for the pole to get that extra point, which I know he'd like to get. But overall, looks like Bruno's going to be the man. It's Servia's a guy who really stepped it up and got the job done.
A little under 7 minutes to go in the session. We'll tick them away. Meantime, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to suddenly soggy Denver, Colorado, as it continues to rain and it appears that qualifying is at an end. But the race is coming your way and we will race rain or shine. So join us for the Champ Car Grand Prix of Denver tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Speed Channel. Some of the fans enjoying the many activities on the infield, others sitting glumly in the stands. They wanted to see a battle for pole. They will not see Bruno Junqueira come out. The session has been checkered. There's Adrian Fernandez, who knows exactly how slippery this track can be in the wet. Let's hear from him.
Adrian, they say timing is everything, mate. I mean, pretty unlucky there.
Yeah, very unlucky. We're just coming in our second lap, I think. I came out around into the main straight here in front of the pits, and I say, is it really raining? And I came there and brake, and it was like water everywhere. The amazing thing is that on the back part of the track is not raining. So that completely took me by surprise, and obviously that threw us any opportunity of really having a go for pole.
The time that Oriol set and the time that Bruno set yesterday, was the overall pole a potential for you today, do you think?
I think so. The car has been very fast all weekend, and you know, we didn't run any new tires this morning, and you know, we thought we had a shot at it. Unfortunately, we would never be able to prove it.
All right, Adrian, well, good luck in the race tomorrow. Certainly ran well last year, finishing 4th. But right now, let's go down to our pole sitter with Derek Daly.
Indeed, Bruno Junqueira for the second time this year on the pole. He was on the pole here last year also, and of course went on to win. Bruno, sometimes things go your way. We don't like ugly weather, but it might have helped you this weekend.
I don't know. Everybody had a chance apart of me. I mean, everybody had a chance. Nobody could beat my time of yesterday. And I felt that Pacific Air car was really fast today. Could put on pole again today and get the extra point. But the rain just came on when I was turning my engine on and I didn't have a chance to have a try. For sure, I think Adrian Fernandez as well, he was having his try in such rain. A part of me and Adrian, everybody had a fair chance. But I'm quite happy to start on the pole, and I hope we can repeat.
Bruno, this track is particularly difficult, so track position might be more important here than at any other time during the season.
Maybe Miami is more important than here, and there are Brands heads. Here, I think with the change that they did this year, no traction control, it's possible to pass, but I hope nobody will pass me in the race. I can do a good start and win the race from the pole.
Thank you, Bruno. Nice smile on his face.
Second pole of the year for Bruno, second in a row here at Denver, and the 76th for the Newman Haas team in their 350th start. Stay with us. Welcome back to Denver, Colorado. Here's a look at the unofficial starting lineup for Sunday's Grand Prix of Denver. Bruno Junqueira and Oriol Servia on the front row. Hold that thought for a moment. Then Sebastian Bourdais and Adrian Fernandez. Thiago Montero has one of his best qualifying performances of the year. He'll start next to Patrick Carpentier. Then Darren Manning and Mario Haberfeld. Bitterly disappointed Paul Tracy, who put all of his chips squarely in the center of the table, but could not draw a winning hand. He'll start next to Michel Jourdain. Alex Tagliani and Ryan Hunter-Reay on row 6, then Jimmy Vasser and Mario Dominguez. Rodolfo Levine and Roberto Moreno will start on row 8. Newcomer Mika Salo and Walter Salas on row 9, and Jeff Boss alone on row 10. Now let's talk about that front row. Junqueira and Servia. We've been mentioning their names in tandem a lot in the last couple of races. I want to take you back to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on what could have been a very big weekend for Junqueira's championship hopes. But when Servia came up the inside down in the keyhole turn, both cars went off the track. Junqueira was not impressed, got back on track, but 2 laps down, was unable to score a point in the race. Then last week, in Friday qualifying in Montreal, bang, down in the hairpin. Off the road went Bruno. Servia went on to log a front row start, his first of the season. He's followed up with his second this weekend in Denver.
Bruno delivered another one of his great quotes, much like the one involving his teammates' setup ability at Toronto. Bruno says, well, you know, clearly Oriol was quick, but he obviously does not know how to brake when he's behind another car.
Well, I'm not sure exactly how to go about this, Scott, but you have now to climb into your Trans Am car and go out on this
Exactly.
track.
I'll be interesting to see what we can come up with. We qualify in just about a half hour, so I'm going to run on down there and jump in my Jag. But these conditions are changing quite quickly here, and it's dark, and I hope we don't have to qualify in the rain. If we do, we do, but it's never nice for anybody.
Go do a little warm-up on the ice skating rink inside.
There you go.
Stick some Blizzaks on there, baby.
Up on those Bridgestone Blizzaks. You betcha. Well, as
All
you
right,
can
boys.
see, the
I'm
jet
out of here.
dryers are out there. Stay safe, buddy.
See you tomorrow.
Have fun.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Keep it upright. Down to the pit lane. Calvin Fish is with Paul Tracy.
Well, Paul, you certainly got affected by that session more than anyone out there. Starting 9th tomorrow, what do you think?
It's going to be a hard day. We're going to have to pit out a sequence and get out a sequence to people and try to run our own race and see what happens. I mean, it's a long race. It's very easy to slide off the track here. It's very easy to spin. So we're just going to have to not do that and try to get as many points as we can.
The thing about the championship, Paul, you're now in a position to win your first Champ Car title. This season is a long one. You're just coming off 5 weekends out of 6. And look ahead to the races that you have on the schedule. How do you think you'll fare there?
Well, I was hoping I was going to fare well here. We had a good lap in qualifying going, but I lost it. You know, it's a long way to go yet in this championship. There's 5 races. That's a quarter of the season, so it's by no means over. We've got to outrace Newman Haas and outrun them every weekend. This weekend, we haven't been able to do that, but we're going to try and do it tomorrow.
When you have moments like it happened on the last lap at Montreal, I mean, this is a team sport, and I know you get frustrated, and certainly anyone would in your position where you're going for that championship. In the week now, afterwards, do you guys sit down and do you kind of make peace, or is it that kind of relationship where you're allowed to speak your mind?
You know, you got to speak your mind. I mean, 4 points is 4 points. We've just lost 2 to Bruno this weekend, so you can't give those up. And you know, it's going to be critical at the end of the year. So we'll just have to. We got to keep racing to win every race.
Okay, so what have you done at a team? I mean, is everyone in the same boat? They all feel the same way? Those points were important, and it's a big mistake.
They're important. I mean, it's a big mistake, and we can't afford to make any more. With 5 to go, we can't make any mistakes. So we got a long race tomorrow. We can't afford to make any mistakes. Get some points.
All right, mate. Good luck tomorrow. Cheers, Paul.
I'm sure Paul Tracy is painfully aware that the defending champion of this race, the man chasing him for the championship, Bruno Junqueira, starts P1 tomorrow.
A couple interesting things there. One, we're going to look at laps led.
Check this out. We said earlier in the show that it's been a monster year for Paul Tracy. He has moved up to 2nd on the all-time laps led list. In fact, he and Michael Andretti, numbers, TK, have led more than the next 5 guys on the list together. But all of those guys have championships while Paul does not. Now, you were saying?
Well, a couple of things. One, Calvin, I think, was trying to get Paul to say, you know, he went and apologized to the crew guys or what have you. I don't think that's necessary because there was a mistake made. An interesting thing is last year people used to tune into Paul's radio because he was like that not only when things went wrong. He was like that all the time on the radio. And I asked him earlier this year, I said, we listen to your radios and you don't say anything. I said, why don't you talk like that? He says, if I talk like that, Tony Cicali would leave. And it was very matter of fact. And I thought about it. I said, Tony Cicali would leave. Tony marches to his own drummer, and he's very important to that overall effort. The other thing, Paul talked about getting out of sequence. That's a good strategy. If you have a quick race car, you get out of sequence, you can do some good there. Here, with the knife edge on aggression, balancing the aggression, that's a tough thing. If you do that, you're out there having to really force the pace, and the chances of making a mistake are high. It's what they have to do, but keep your eyes peeled on that if they get out of sequence tomorrow.
It's been a roller coaster season, if you will, for PT, and he has come back time and again. We'll talk about that a little more when we return to Denver. Welcome back to soggy Denver, Colorado on this Labor Day weekend. We hope your sun is shining wherever you are. Of course, Labor Day honors the working man, so we decided to go around the paddock and ask the Champ Car drivers, if you couldn't be doing what you're doing, what would you do?
Probably be homeless. I don't know. I'll probably be living with my parents still.
I think I'd like to be a lead guitarist.
I think I would be racing somewhere anyway. If it's not here or it's not cars, I would be racing something, maybe bicycles or something.
I need something challenging. I love airplanes. I love racing. So I never thought about doing anything else other than driving.
I'd be involved in something competitive. I like to compete. I don't know, maybe a bullfighter.
I started studying in Brazil mechanical engineering, so I would probably have a degree in engineering by now, but if I would do that, I'm not sure yet.
That's a very good question. I started to be an engineer at school, but didn't get much time to complete it, so I would probably work on the computer, but I don't know exactly how and when.
Something with my hands. I really like working with my hands, and
More than likely, I would be working for my dad's construction company and doing that.
I'd be a beach bum probably if I wasn't racing.
Well, I don't know whether I'd be a bullfighter. I'd probably end up with Tracy working for his dad, because his dad comes where I come from. But right now we're with Bobby Rahal, who's looking at me bemused, has no idea what I'm talking about. Bobby is here, of course, in the pit lane, ready for the Atlantic qualifying. His two drivers, John Fogarty and Danica Patrick, about to go out. But Bobby, back to Champ Car. Your man in the Higanti car, after he won Milwaukee, Bob, he sort of went off the boil a little bit. Now he wins Montreal last weekend. I'm sure you know if he goes off the boil here, the championship is done. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think, you know, Portland was right after Milwaukee, and he was strong there. I mean, this is not a very good qualifying showing, that's for sure. And this place is almost impossible to pass on. Having said that, it's very physically tough and on the drivers and the cars. And you know, you never know. The starts, you know, at the end of the back straight, you know, it looks like an Oklahoma land rush going in there half the time. And you never know. We can be opportunistic and get into the top six, hopefully, right off the bat. But, you know, we're really racing like 3 or 4 guys. And obviously one's Junqueira, one's Tracy, and I guess Carpentier really is closest. And so we just have to make sure we beat those guys. And I think if we do that, I mean, we've got to win races, and you can't be qualifying 10th. But I don't think, I'm not wringing my hands yet.
Bobby, when you have the debriefs, how much do you talk about race win potential or championship potential?
Well, I don't believe you can think of championship. You have to take it each day, each race at a time, because if you look too far down the road, you trip over what's right in front of you. So we've got to just look at every day, every race, and be the best we can be. And if we do that, then the championship will take care of itself.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Derek. Bobby Rahal, a former guest on Dave Despain's Wind Tunnel program here on Speed Channel, which airs Monday through Thursday nights, live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a great week for Dave and Wind Tunnel. Sam Hornish, the 2-time IRL champion, who has just announced a move to Team Penske next year, is Tuesday's scheduled guest. On Wednesday, AMA superstar Ricky Carmichael. Speed Channel coverage of qualifying for the Champ Car Grand Prix of Denver has been brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, advanced technology that gives you a grip on the future. And by Ford. If you haven't looked at Ford lately, look again. Welcome back live to the streets of Denver, Colorado, or the parking lots around the Pepsi Center, to be more precise. Bob Varsha and Tommy Kendall. Interesting qualifying session. Big disappointment for Paul Tracy, but as we mentioned earlier, TK, he always seems to come back.
He does, but it's really weird. Whoever wins the championship this year can sit back and say, wow, that one was a nail-biter all the way through. It's almost like one of those video games. When you get out in front, they slow your car down. And Paul Tracy, just when he gets a comfortable lead, like going into Elkhart Lake, he had 23 points. Bruno came in there and swept it, 20 points. Bruno swept 23. All of a sudden, he left there. He threw it off the road, Paul, and left behind in points. Was able to come back the next weekend. This race is looking a lot like that. Bruno is doing exactly what he needs to do. Paul is off to one of his poorest start outside of Germany all year.
No question about it. This last quarter of the season, 5 races are going to be terrific fun. Time for final thoughts here in Denver. Of course, the race is coming your way tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern here on Speed Channel. Let's start with Derek Daly.
Make no mistake about it, boys. Championships are all about points. I'm a little bit concerned that Tracy potentially threw away a point today with that spin. Remember Toronto, the controversy when they took away his pole on Friday? That was another championship bonus point right there. 4 points last week in Montreal when he ran out of gas. And who knows what he lost with that mistake at Elkhart Lake. And as he said earlier himself, how much would Dario Franchitti now pay for 1 championship point when he lost it to Montoya? Calvin?
Derek, last weekend in Montreal, we said if Paul Tracy falters a little bit, one of those championship contenders, Michel Jourdain or Bruno Junqueira, has to step up to the plate. Michel certainly did that. Bruno did not last weekend. Here tomorrow, Bruno's in the prime starting spot, of course, on the pole position. Michel's work has really cut out, starting alongside Paul Tracy on the 5th row. But for Michel Jourdain, time is running out. Bruno, he just needs a good, solid result. Try and gain some points, but Michel needs a big one, boys.
No question about it. It's going to be an interesting day tomorrow. Once again, here's a look at the unofficial starting grid. Defending champion Bruno Junqueira on pole alongside his nemesis in the last 2 races, Oriol Servia. And then Bourdais, the rookie leader, way back in the pack. First and third in the championship, Paul Tracy and Michel Jourdain. Be sure to join us tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for all the action from the Champ Car Grand Prix of Denver. Until then, for Scott Pruitt, Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish, I'm Bob Varsha. We'll see you tomorrow from the streets of Denver.